Now, recently I made a video on Project Configurator for Jira for cloud, and I was thinking that for some strange reason I have never really talked about Project Configurator for Jira on server, but we can always start doing it. So let us do that. Let us use the Project Configurator for Jira on server, and I will hopefully make few videos, a bit more than few videos, to explain how this app can help you in case you want to migrate your projects from one instance to another instance. And at the same time, um, there are some other use cases of this app. For example, in case you want to push your changes from staging to your production instance, you can use this app. It works really well. And and using this app is not at all difficult. So let us start using it. And the first thing that I will do, as usual, I will of course spend maybe a couple of minutes on the marketplace listing. So on the marketplace listing, you can learn quite a lot about this app, uh, what it can do. So things like using this app, you can stage, approve, and push Jira changes live. You can export and import Jira service management objects, easy error detection, and make flexible changes. So basically, using this app, you can the main thing that you can do is migrate your configurations, which can be a bit of a pain when you have more than one Jira instance, especially when you have, let us say, a staging and a production instance. And it is great to have a staging environment where you can build your configurations. Maybe you are doing some work with the workflow, and you want to, of course, first test it on your staging, and then, of course, you want to deploy it on production. But without this app, you have to do it manually. You have to basically redo those changes again, basically the configuration part. But of course, using this app, you can also migrate the data. But in this video, I want to focus on getting started. So let us just start using the app. And today, what we'll do, we will basically migrate configurations from this instance of Jira, which is my source instance, where I have some projects along with, of course, the configuration. So if I look at my projects, I can see that I have, let us just wait for it to come up. This particular Jira instance is running on my local instance, and it can be a bit slow sometimes, but okay, so we have 4 projects, and for each and every project, you will have definitely configurations that you also want to migrate in case those configurations are not there on target instance. So things like issue types and custom fields and screens and workflows and statuses. So anything that is associated with a project, you have to, of course, make sure those configurations are migrated before you can move the data. So the first thing that you need to do, that you can do, is you can go to the Manage App section. And when you go to the Project Configurator, I've already installed it. There is a object dependency report that you can take a look at. And this report is, in my opinion, is wonderful, because using this report in a Project Configurator app, you can basically understand all the objects and how the objects are like linked to each other. For example, just to give you an example about status, you may want to know where all that particular status is being used. If you are maybe interested in understanding custom fields, for example, so this particular report will tell you where all that particular custom field is being used. Now, this is crucial. This information is really important, because when you are trying to resolve the conflict, so we'll talk about the resolution of the conflicts. But when you're trying to resolve the conflicts, you have to, let us say, make some changes in your source Jira instance, or maybe on target, for example, and you need to know where all that particular custom field or that group or the user or screen is being used. So you can take a look at this report, starting with, of course, groups. Then, of course, we have users, screens, and status, which is very important. For example, if you are talking about one status called cancel. Now this particular status is being used in different workflows. So this information is really important. The main thing is, of course, I mean, you have the workflows. I mean, everything is important, but things that can cause problem when you are trying to move the configurations, uh, they are usually custom fields and uh, statuses and resolutions, and of course users, almost everything. But uh, custom fields are a bit tricky, and you want to know where all that particular custom field is being used. It can be used in, let us say, for example, in a screen as usual, but you can have a custom field maybe in a scheme somewhere, and you need to know this information if you have to resolve a conflict. So these are all the custom fields, and you can see here the usage of those fields. Then we can start by exporting the configuration. So when you click on the next option, export projects, you can, and by the way, on the right hand side, top right corner, you have this message that says, "Do you know we just launched a cloud version of Project Configurator?" Yes, I know. I made a video on that. So thank you very much. Don't show again. So let us continue with the export of the configurations. And the good thing is that when you export configurations, you have the option to select projects. Now I want to maybe move all of them, like I want to select all the projects, and then you can basically configure a few things like do you want to export only the configurations or the complete project. For this particular video, let us just focus on the configuration, um, because that is the main thing. For the actual project migration, we will worry about it later. As I mentioned before, I will make more videos on Project Configurator for sure. I think it is very important because these days people are migrating quite a lot. They are trying to consolidate their Jira instances, and this app can be crucial, and it will basically make life a lot easier for doing these consolidations and merges. Now, rest of the configurations are basically there for you to uh, select whether you want to migrate all the custom fields or only those fields that are used in the projects. Things like users, do you want to worry about all the users or only the users that are active? And similarly for groups, filters, dashboards, and agile board. So that is good to know because you can also move filters, dashboards, and agile boards. So these things are uh, usually associated with the users. So when I log into my Jira instance on target after the merge, after the consolidation, after the migration, I want my things to be as it is. So this can be very important. For this particular export, we'll keep things default, but we'll explore them later again when we get a chance to worry about, let us say, only export. Instead of exporting only the custom fields that are used in the projects, maybe you want to migrate everything. So we will discuss them separately when we do an in-depth um, look when we look at this project configurator in much more detail. Now, the good thing about this particular export is that you can basically save the configuration. For example, if you have selected some options here and you want to repeat this migration again, you can actually save it as a configuration. Right now, it is default, and I'll leave it as it is. So it is quite handy. So let us export. And when you click on the export button, it will basically create a file, an XML file that you can then import on your target. So I'll wait for it to finish, and because I'm on my local instance of Jira, it is quite quick, and I can now download this configuration file. So you can wait for this window to appear, and you can then download this big XML file. The size can be a bit big in case you have a big Jira instance, but it is basically the file where you will have all your configurations. Now, the next thing that you need to do is you need to go to the target, and on target I have two projects, which is fine, but of course we will bring more projects very soon. So as we did on source, you can basically go to the manage app, and if you want, you can also run the, let me just enter the password. I forgot the password actually. So I will enter the password. And I was talking about the object dependency report. So you can run this report even on the target because it can be important. But what I'll do, I'll basically go to this import conflict detection. So what I want to do is that before I can perform an import, and by the way, even when you're performing an import, you have the option to simulate the import. But even before that, you can actually run this conflict detection, and you can then select the XML file that you exported from your source. I think the file was, make sure you're using the file which is the one that we just exported. And the good thing about this import conflict detection is that you can also skip some of the configurations in case you don't really want to import users and groups and so on. So you can select that. But for this particular video, we'll import each and everything. So let us do import. And oh, and by the way, we are not really importing. We are basically uh, basically we are trying to generate a report that will tell us the possible conflicts. So this can be important when you are maybe in the beginning trying to understand the impact of this migration on target, because when you're moving configurations from source from one instance of Jira to another instance of Jira, you may bring in a lot of things, and that will overwrite your configuration. It can overwrite your configurations on the target instance. So you just need to be aware of these things, and it will probably take some time, maybe a few minutes. It depends on your instance. If you are trying to import a lot of things, it will probably take a few minutes. And when your import conflict detection report is complete, you will get this information. Now, this is again very important that you take a look at this report. For example, starting with the user. So you can see here that this particular user is being used in these projects, which is good to know. Talking about groups and the project roles and issue links. So, for example, the issue link type blocks, there is no impact. So this is a good information for me. Statuses are very important. For example, if you look at your status closed, you can see here where all it is being used. So you can basically decide what you want to do with it. So this is of course there for you to assist you in making sure that when you're performing this merge, when you're performing this import, what all configurations, for example, what all configurations already exist on the target, and those configurations can be overwritten. So just be careful. So the next thing that we'll do, we'll take a look at the actual import. So we will go to the option called import project, and what we'll do, we'll perform the import using the same XML file. Now the good thing about this interface is that again it is a bit similar to what you did earlier. Like when you were exporting, you were basically there was an option to basically create different configurations that you can save for doing it quickly, but we just want to use the default option, and I will select my XML file. So the first checkbox talks about run a simulated import, which we want to do. So check this box, and I want to basically leave these options as it is, and we want to basically click on the import project button to basically start the simulation. And in the beginning, you can, I mean, of course, you just need to understand the impact of these different options that you are selecting. Like maybe you want to import the projects that are being used in a custom field or used by, or basically custom fields used by projects. Do you want to create those projects or not? So do take a look at those options. But in this video, let us just do a quick import based on the default options. And you have to, of course, wait for it to finish, and it will basically give you a wonderful view of the configurations that will be migrated for you. Now, the good thing about this view is that you have basically a very good color indication on the top. I mean, basically, when you're looking at these configurations that will be migrated, based on the color, you can understand what will happen with that configuration. Now, if you see something in blue color, it means that as you can see on top, there is a legend on top. It says if the color is blue for a specific configuration, it means the configuration or the objects will be modified. If it is green, it means that those objects will be created. For example, if you see something in blue color for a group, for example, it means that this group already exists on the target, but it will be modified because on the source instance, you may have some users, and those users, uh, I mean, the users in a group, this particular relation will be modified on target. So on target, after the migration, you will have admin along with designer one instead of just admin, and so on. Basically, for each and every blue color, this will basically means. I mean, you have to be careful about it. It will. Be, if you see something in blue color, do monitor it. Do take a look at it, and understand and accept whether you are okay with it or not. So the good thing about this particular review is that you can also choose to not migrate a specific configuration or object. For example, I don't really want to migrate my script runner uh, configurations. If you expand, you can see here that you may have behaviors, you may have a few other things. So I don't really want to migrate them. So you can uncheck it. Also, if you see something in red color, so we talked about green. Green means that it will create those objects. Warning will talk about things that you need to be careful about. I mean, for example, if you look at this warning, it says post function in position 1 in action 11 requires this particular um update issue field function, which is not available, and check if required workflow plugin is missing. So these warnings are there for you to basically again take further action. If you look at these warnings will probably give you an indication about what you can possibly do to fix it. Maybe you need to install a missing plugin, or maybe, for example, let us take a look at maybe another warning. And the good thing is that again you can just decide whether you want to move it or not. You can just uncheck it. But let us for this particular for this particular migration, I want to migrate each and everything. And of course, you may have some errors, and these errors will tell you. For example, let us take a look at this error, which is talking about one screen. And if you expand this particular section of the screen, it will tell you that for this particular field, which is basically of type select plus plus, this particular app is not there on target, and that is why you cannot really have this field created on target, and that is why you won't even have this field on the screen. So you can take some decision based on these errors and warnings. For green and blue color, just be aware of the impact of what will happen. And you can then click on the recalculate again. If I mean, of course, if you are trying to, I mean, when you're trying to import the configurations, you can take a look at each and every configuration, each and every object, in case you want to spend some time. And I think you should spend some time. But we want to be a bit more adventurous today, and we don't really want to spend time resolving each and every error and warning. I just want to show you how this app works. So when you click on the apply configuration, it will then perform the migration for you. And again, it will take some time. Uh, of course, because it is creating the configurations, it is also creating all those necessary statuses and workflows and issue types. Basically, each and every thing that is required by those projects that we are trying to migrate. And because we are doing a full migration of those projects from source to target, I expect everything to be there on target. Uh, Things will be overwritten, I know, but I will also talk about how to resolve these conflicts in future videos. You can do things like maybe renaming few fields or few configurations in your source instance, or maybe preparing your target instance or performing some kind of a cleanup both on source and target. So you can do things to resolve the conflicts. And the most important thing is that you need to be aware of what will happen when you overwrite those things that you wanted to migrate, and those configurations are already there on target. So when you perform this migration, things will be different on target, and users might complain. And on the right hand side, you will see this message called perform a reindex, because there are new fields, and those fields can have, of course, values, and maybe maybe Jira needs to perform a reindex, so you can perform reindex. But I'll not do the reindexing right now. What I want to show you is, of course, the project. So if I go to my project, I can see all the projects that are now migrated for me, and I can of course enjoy the configurations that are now migrated to my target instance of Jira. So you can also maybe do a comparison, like a quick comparison. So let us say if I go back to my source instance, I can take a look at my Scrum project, which is one of my project on source, and then I can also open the same project on my target. And of course, don't expect things to be absolutely 100% perfect in one go. You have to, of course, do this migration on a test instance. Make sure you are aware of the consequences. You inform your users both on the source instance and also on the target instance, because uh, there will be a few things different, and not all the apps are supported. I mean, you can always go to the Project Configurator documentation to understand things that can be migrated. It can migrate almost everything, but if you're using, let us say, a specific app, so and if that app is also storing its own data, so you need to first check the documentation about uh, whether those apps are supported for migration by Project Configurator or not. So let us take a look at the project on target instance of Jira. So I'll go to my Scrum board, and I want to maybe take a look at my backlog. Let us see if the backlog looks same or not. I mean, we have not really migrated any. Oh, I mean, backlog will be different because we have not really migrated any issue, but you can still monitor the. You can still take a look at the configurations. So let us wait for the source instance to completely load this page for me. Okay, so this is my source instance. I'll go to the project settings, and I will also do the same thing on my on my target. And I want to basically see if my source instance has all the configurations or not. So if I look at my configurations on target, I can see here that I have all the schemes that I think should have been there, and maybe I will take a look at my configurations, like maybe custom fields, for example. Let us go to the issues and take a look at different configurations. I need to enter my password again. So let us take a look at the issue types. So issue types look good, and if I again go back to the list of custom fields, I'm actually more interested in custom fields, because custom fields are important, and I want to know if those fields are migrated or not. So let us do a quick check. So yeah, I can see that I remember these fields, some of these fields that I wanted to migrate, that are actually used on the source instance. And if you look at the workflows as well, maybe. So let us take a look at the workflows. So all the workflows that were there on source, those workflows are migrated for me. So it looks good to me, and I recommend you to also read the documentation in case you want to use Project Configurator, because migration can be a bit tricky, and you have to spend some time uh, on your test instance, performing some test migrations, and do also learn about what all objects are supported. So all of this information is actually there in the documentation, uh, and this this particular app, in my opinion, is something that will make your life a lot easier. And there are a couple of use cases. So apart from just doing consolidations, merges, you can always use this app to keep the configurations uh, in sync, kind of in sync, or maybe I should say the right word is that stage your configurations. So do something on your local or your test instance, and then once you're happy, once you are satisfied with the outcome of your configurations, then of course use this app to migrate those changes to your production. And doing it using this app is not only efficient and fast, but you will not make errors, because when you do things manually, you can make errors. So that is all I wanted to talk about in this video. And as I mentioned before, I will cover other use cases, and I will do a bit more in-depth uh, migration. I will basically show you other aspects of this app, and there are so many permutations and combinations when it comes to using uh, Project Configurator. As I mentioned before, each migration is different, and each Jira instance is different, and you need to be aware of what will happen if you do this, what will happen if you don't do this. So things like, let us say, how you want to manage your users, things like uh, your filters and dashboards and custom fields. So there are so many aspects that we need to discuss. In this video, I just wanted to give you a very quick idea about how to get started with using this app, and I also showed you how to perform a migration. So that is all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you also learned something new today. Thank you very much.